think it's important to know that children aren't bad. I'm not a psychologist, but this is just some logical reasoning that I walked through. Children cannot be bad. Any of their failings, whether in performance or in morality, however morality is defined, is either a result of their environment or their genetics. If it's a result of their genetics, if their badness is a result of their genetics, then it's not their fault. Okay, you cannot control your genetics. If children are naturally predisposed to being bad, well, then that's their genetics. They can't control that. So it's not, they can't be bad because that's just how they are. If it is a result of their environment, then it's their parents' fault. Mostly, more than less. If it's anything more than this, then I really don't know what it could be. And from what I can gather, that a child is a product of his genetics and how he was raised, then it really is that simple. It's really that simple. But what it means for you is that as a child, you were not bad. How could you be? No, you were not bad. You could not have been bad. And did you ever internalize that you could be bad? Did your parents ever tell you that you were bad? And did you believe, even partly, that you were indeed somehow bad? As a child, you could not go against your parents in any systematic way. Okay, if they said you were bad, you would internalize that you were indeed bad. And how much of this nonsense have you internalized to this day? Low grades. Most of us underperformed in school. Okay, most of us didn't do as well in school as we could have. I know I was constantly berated. I was constantly called bad and lazy for getting bad grades. But has school done anything good for you? No, it sucked. Hell, how much have you had to unlearn from school? I mean, school has been worse than useless for me. It has been downright toxic. So as a child, you were forced to go to school, something you wouldn't have done on your own. Okay? And then were berated if you didn't perform well enough in something you didn't even choose to do, and something that didn't even do you any good anyway. I'm not saying that this is the singular cause of society's problems, but being forced to do this, but being forced to believe that this is normal or fair or just, a just thing as a child before you even have the ability to rationally object cannot be good. If you were forced, like today, if you were forced by armed men to do something, it would be unpleasant. But at least as an adult, you understand that what is being done is immoral, okay, and that your underperformance in some labor camp is not bad, and that the camp you're stuck in is evil. But a child is told that this camp is good, and obedience is just, and desire to oppose the camp is bad. And a child cannot resist in any way. An adult can at least resist in knowing that he is in an evil situation. A child cannot. You could not. Public schools are funded through what? Taxation. If one does not pay the taxes for the schools, he will be fined. If he does not pay the fine, he will be thrown into prison. If he resists being thrown into prison, he will face SWAT teams. If he resists the SWAT teams, he will be killed. All right? This is how public schools are funded. This is why you pay your taxes. It's the same reason you give your wallet to a mugger. The reason you give money to a mugger is because if you don't, the mugger will shoot you. The reason you pay your taxes is because if you don't, the state will shoot you. All right? And as a child, you must go to one of these schools or a school approved by the same murderous institution. Now, let's be honest. No child at a school is bad. I'm not saying to do this, but this is just the base ethics of the situation. A child could kill all of the teachers and administration at a school and still be less evil than them. Okay? There is nothing a child could do to a teacher that would be wrong. I'm not saying do this to teachers, because teachers are human beings. They're stuck in this, they're stuck in the same mind fark as you. All right, but just the base ethics, nothing a child could do to a teacher would be wrong. And when I understood this viscerally, that the teachers who bullied me in the public education system are evil, and that nothing I did was wrong, no reaction to the whole monsters camp was wrong, it made me feel a lot better. And for the first time in my life, I don't hate myself. When a mammal is given contradictory feedback, such as messages to go down both the left tube and the right tube in some maze, okay, what happens is like that lab rat, that little mammal ends up paralyzed. Okay, when you're told to both learn and do well in school, what happens? You're paralyzed. When you're told to think for yourself and obey the law, what happens? When you are taught to be honest and be social, what happens? When you are taught to believe in God and be rational, what happens? Okay? Most of the time, people end up paralyzed. They end up just doing a little bit of neither. All right? People obey the law here and there and shirk the law here and there with no rhyme or reason. You end up with Christians who believe in God and evolution and don't really give that contradiction much thought. You end up with people who are sometimes honest in private and they are social in public. In short, everyone just becomes half-assed hypocrites. And it is so common that when a child points out these hypocrisies, adults view the child's objections as silly and unexperienced, but can't address them, just saying it's what grown-ups do. All right, being two-faced is what grown-ups do. And when Adult Swim is frank about these hypocrisies, the cartoon show Adult Swim is frank about these hypocrisies, we call it comedy. Okay? It is so bad that when we come into contact with someone who does away with the act and throws off these euphemisms and just says, I am telling you to do because I have the power, like that teacher who said, I'm telling you to do this because I'm the teacher and I can give you an F. Okay, we call that, what do we call that? We call that refreshingly honest, and the kids like that teacher. All right, we live in a world where that bald subjugation is the best that's out there because at least he's not calling his act moral. At least he isn't saying that it is moral to go to school. He's calling the hypocrisy for what it is. And it is sad. It is just sad to see that this is better than anything else. It is sad to see that a bald power grab is lauded for its honesty. And we wonder why there's such rot. Okay, when the foundation of everything is hypocrisy, what would you expect? Of course the internet is going to be infested with crap. Of course everyone is going to be depressed. When a farmer has a bunch of sick cows, the first question one would ask is, how were they raised? Yet, when looking at ourselves, we are told that we are bad. How are we raised? Who the hell knows? If you start from the assumption that getting good grades and listening to your parents and obeying God is good, and not doing so is bad, then there is no possible way to evaluate whether or not those things actually are good or bad. And we are told that the only way out of this shit is to reach for the stars and be in two places at once. To think for yourself and obey the law, to be rational and believe in God. Okay? Thus you have theistic evolutionists and like political fanatics who think the law is hunky-dory. And people who claim to do that, people who claim that through sheer mental force they can break this hypocritical depression, they are lying. You cannot break the hypocrisy because you cannot like become Superman and break the hypocrisy because you just can't be in two places at once. All right. You can only break the hypocrisy by identifying what is phantasmagorical nonsense. You can only break the hypocrisy by becoming an enemy of fantasy. And this may piss some people off, but it means not believing in God, the state, or the innate virtue of the family. It means identifying archons. And while you are not strong enough to destroy them, at this point you may not even be strong enough to resist them, at least as an adult, you can finally stop seeing them as virtuous right now. At least you can be free within your own skull, within your own mind. At least you can finally know that these abusers are wrong, and you can have the peace of mind to know that you were not bad and that you were never